everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me as always is
the other Cam, the well-informed hater,
as well as
the living anti-life equation known as Josh.
And without further ado, always keeping us sober. Who else is left?
The professor, your resident reality check.
And we are back in full squad. You know, it's been the last couple months. Everyone's been running around, but we're all here. We're gonna do kind of catch up on some of the news that's been going on. But the biggest thing has been that the writer's strike has now ended. It lasted about 5 months, just about something like that. And yeah, something about 5 months. And so now, who won, guys?
Well, according to Vox and almost every other media outlet you look at that's reporting on it, the writers won. And I think that's from what I'm seeing in the agreement and the outline that they have pretty much won, because I think the biggest issue for most writers were the streaming residuals and lack thereof. You know, all of the conglomerates, the big studios were making tons of money off of streaming, and if you think about it, we're just talking about this now because of the freshness of the agreement, but the streaming itself has been going on for almost a decade now. I mean,
Since 08 was the last was the last writer's strike, and they struck over no provisions
for streaming, right?
For streaming. Yeah.
Right. Because that was when Netflix had started doing the streaming. They were the first, but quickly after that, HBO Go became, and then Prime, and then all these. So
no, back it up a little bit. Remember, this was when networks started streaming.
Oh yeah, that's
was
right.
The thing. Because remember, so the big one was Heroes was probably the most watched television series of the time in 08. And they started, that was one of the first shows that started streaming back then. And it was the big to do because writers were not getting a single cent over off of streaming, and they were advertising much like they're doing now. Was the infancy of advertising in between acts for 30 second spots, 2 or 3 advertisers. So it's barely even, let's call it a minute to a minute and a half, not even the 2 minutes, 30 seconds that you usually get on television. And they're getting ad revenue hand over fist and not paying writers. So that was what the first strike was about. And so the second strike, this most recent one, and I'll let you finish, D'Angelo. The second strike, the most recent one, it was more about updating the provisions since then, because what it was back then is radically different from what it is now, or what it was before the strike, where, writers are getting pennies on the dollar, like the writers for Suits. The writers for Suits, this is the most streamed anything of the time.
So weird.
Of the current day was, I think a writer's check was for $2,000, which is absurd considering that millions of people are streaming the show. But yeah, D'Angelo, please go ahead and pick up where you left off.
Well, I think you pretty much covered most of what I was going to say anyway, because I remember it a little differently. I don't remember Heroes as being the sort of jumping off point or the nexus, but there were a lot of shows that are cited as the sort of breaking point or nexus, or that were affected by that 08 strike. I'm thinking Heroes, Supernatural was affected. They had all these shows, either Pushing Daisies, thing like that, either went away entirely, or they got shortened seasons. But I remember what I was saying as far as the streaming is, I remember a couple years after that, after the agreement was all solid, is when Netflix launched its streaming platform. And then you got the other platforms to cut. Because I remember the thing that really built Netflix streaming platform was not an original show of its own. It was Breaking Bad. Because Breaking Bad was one of the first series that was available to binge. Remember Breaking Bad? That's when binging Breaking Bad.
I was gonna say West Wing was another one of them. It was a lot. It was a lot of the legacy shows, but Breaking Bad was the first one because and Friends as well, actually, because it was a big deal when they got Friends. But I remember that because that's when. Because Breaking Bad, that was the first one that was still going, and then people could catch up. So then when people got on Netflix, binged Breaking Bad. Oh, this show is amazing. And then when it dropped, their viewership increased. I remember that.
Yeah, because I did the same thing. I didn't watch Breaking Bad the first 3 seasons on AMC. I watched in retrospect on
Same here.
Binging it, streaming it on Netflix. And by the time I finished that 3rd season, the 4th season was premiering on AMC. And part of me wanted to just wait for it to... in order to binge it, but it was going to be a while, and I knew that there was no way I wouldn't have that ruined for me. So, but anyway, just say all that to say that this new agreement is trying to shore up what the writers will get in terms of streaming features, their accelerated payment structure. They got, looks like they specifically put in the provision for, it's like the 5th one for artificial intelligence. Like they're really trying to drive that home. But I encourage people to take a look at this, the summary of the 2023 WGA NBA agreement, because it gives a lot of insight into, because I remember hearing and reading and seeing people say, oh, well, these writers, they make a lot of money anyway, or what are they complaining about? And people getting upset, of course, because some of their favorite shows were either being put on long hiatus or going away entirely. But if you look at this agreement, you see the reason why this conversation had to be had. You talk about.
So as a writer producer, can you break down in short layman's terms what it was versus what it is now?
Well, I think I don't want to specifically say what it was, because honestly, I'm not a part of the WGA. So that agreement is the older agreement. I mean, I looked at it years ago, but I don't know specifically what was in it that was different from. I know that now they have the artificial intelligence. They're trying to shore up a lot of the streaming residuals, but all of this stuff is very specific. Like the studio makes a lot off of almost everything, whereas the writer should technically be making the same thing off of like everything. They create the characters. The characters are used for all these other things. They should be paid for that.
One thing I would say is, so now that we're in a new era of how we're creating these content and stuff, do you think, I think now that they've renegotiated everything else, brought in all the AI stuff and all that, do you think the old model of how it used to be, where because before, if you're a writer, you wrote for a show, you got paid for the show, and then you got your residuals. And then if it went into syndication, say it was a sitcom, it got up to 100 episodes. Right. Then we had, there's tons of stories for writers and actors that are living off of the residual checks from, Who's the Boss or The Cosby Show or whatever. So now that this model has kind of shifted in terms of how they create content, how they put it, do you think there's going to have to be a new way to do it? Do you think that there'll always be that residual situation? Or do you think there's going to be another conversation where that's not going to happen anymore, like almost that work for hire? Because I think that's where the studios are trying to go to. And I think it's very interesting because the tech, one of the things I was telling to one of my friends, I was like, people keep thinking of this against the studios, but it's actually also against tech companies. And so it's like Netflix and Amazon, they could shutter their entertainment situation and they'll still be fine. Exactly. So the studios, I actually agree. I think that's actually good. But I think there's going to be a very interesting thing of how I'm curious to see how these tech companies are going to get around some of the AI type stuff, because I'm really curious how they're going to enforce it, and like what's going to be the first one that's going to get that that lawsuit or whatever, or that situation. Because I'm like, it's dope that they won, quote unquote, but I'm really curious to see now what's the next thing, because technology is going to go faster than we're going to catch up to it, and they're not going to make laws until at least another 2 years to even do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be up to early on. Is it's going to be the honor system, right? Because you can't really, that is not a business model. But you're right, though. You're right. Yeah, but it's going to go back to tech is probably going to be able to take advantage, because then they'll write some kind of algorithm or something that could detect if a script was written by artificial intelligence. I don't know if that's possible. I'm just saying, like, stranger things have happened. I'm even seeing like a commercial of robots playing kickball. Like, this is the world that we're in. And like you said, tech is going faster than what our minds experiences are being able to keep up with. So, I mean, I don't know if I think during those early years when something would go in syndication, you could regulate, studios weren't paying as much because those were far and few in between, right? So every network had probably one or two hits. They didn't have a whole slew of hits. Like if you look at Amazon now, they got The Boys, they got Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings. Like, these shows, by objective measures or by objective observations, are hits that you can see being licensed to other platforms or running in syndication on TV. So all of those things add up to what do you have to pay the writer versus what you're not paying them. Seinfeld right now, for example, is on Hulu, Netflix, and if I'm not mistaken, it's still running in syndication. Now, this is a show that has been in syndication since it ended.
We had like 15 years now, probably something like that.
So, that's why Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, when you see them, they're like just doing whatever the hell they want, because those two, because they are credited as creators, they're technically, of course, they had a team of writers, but it all comes back to them. They are the ones that had the,
and I think that's what I'm wondering too, because I think that's why it's like, it's good that they won in this respect, because I think now we have, like, at least you have a starting point. But I'm really curious, because I think that's a part that I was trying to explain this to my friend. He's a stuntman, and I was telling him, I was like, yo, man, technology goes faster than contracts. So it's like, and I think that's a part that people forget. So like just like you said, the last writer strike, like that was at the beginning of streaming. Now here we are, almost 10 years later, and it went in places we never even thought would happen.
Well, I don't think anyone then could have saw where we are now.
To your point, Cam, I mean, the ink wasn't even dry on the 08 contract, and things changed that year.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. That's why I'm really curious to see. The other thing that came up that we were going to talk about was the expose on Rotten Tomatoes. Basically confirming what we already knew, but it was nice to see it in long form journalistic preview.
That.
All of us, we all knew that like that shit happened, but then it was like, oh no, actually it did. It cost this much. This is how many times they did it. Like, wait, what?
Let me explain this in sports terms for those that may not be familiar. This is like the equivalent of the Celtics ref literally hating on certain teams because he's a fan of a certain team, and what translates to Rotten Tomatoes, which always smell a rotten, and something was a rotten in Denmark, if you catch my drift, is that I would see a movie, and just based off, like, the trailer is supposed to be the hook, right? It captures you. Now, it's not a one-for-one translation of how well a movie should do, But I consider myself a good judgment of character when I see a trailer and I can be like, yo, this movie's going to be trash, or it's just not my cup of tea. And I always had that one friend of mine that comes up, but Rotten Tomatoes said it was good. I was like, and? Like, who cares, right? So what's been going on with Rotten Tomatoes, the short end of it is that Rotten Tomatoes apparently has a stable of critics who give favorable reviews and
payola.
Yeah, kind of like payola in a sense. There's a company called, I think, Bunker 15, and I think they pay $50 to their critics, but they want favorable reviews, and they say Rotten Tomatoes says every critic can write whatever they want, but what happens is they take their overall negative criticism of a movie and put it on a smaller blog where it'll never see the light of day. And what you see is kind of like, I don't know if Yelp works like this, but like you only see positive reviews. One of the dead giveaways when I seen like G.I. Joe got a favorable review, I was like, oh nah, come on, man. Like
I think mine was when it was like, was it critic review is like 92 and then audience review is like 11. So I was like, wait, what?
Something wasn't adding up. It doesn't, if you just kind of go by that and you're just a casual moviegoer, maybe that plays some weight on determining if a movie is good or not. But like, people are spending hard-earned cash on what they think is good, and it's like not really good. And you come out leaving like, man, this review said this, and I've been saying it for years. A lot of us have been saying it for years, that never go by Rotten Tomato. Ultimately, if you deem a movie is going to be good or bad, it's up to you to go see the movie. However, we do have to take into account that we do want to take trusted friends' word of advice, who you be like, yeah, I trust this person's opinion. Yeah, I'm going to go check it out. And if Rotten Tomatoes supports that, even better. But Rotten Tomatoes has basically only wanted to push the good critiques of certain films so they can get distribution deals and whatnot, and basically taking all the negative reviews and they don't necessarily make them disappear. They just put them on sites that you'll never see it. And those critics that are writing these negative reviews are getting pushed to the side. Like, they're not getting a shine because it's an honest opinion of a certain movie.
Yeah, it's kind of weird too, because I think D'Angelo, we had talked to us like way back, but we're talking about how, thinking about Rotten Tomatoes, this is an open forum. It's like anyone can write a review. And so it's like, if D'Angelo is a scholar and does all that stuff, and he watches a movie and he gives his expert opinion as a film person and, whatever. And then I'm over here just like, I like Toxic Avenger. And I was like, well, this is a 4-star movie. Then this and that, blah, 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 blah. And ours are literally weighted at the exact same time. Even if D'Angelo has like 100 previous reviews and I have 2. And I think the part about Rotten Tomatoes to mess that up is like, then there's really no experts or no profession or anything like that. Because I would see some of the like critics, like they actually am a critic as a job, or I shouldn't even say that, they have a blog and then now a film critic. But it was just so crazy because you're right. I would see the weight. There was no weighting about anything. So it's almost like it really was like Yelp.
I think, I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I was just going to say really quick, all of it, based on what you just said, is the reason why we are where we are with Rotten Tomatoes and many other things. Because YouTube University, everybody feel like they can flip to YouTube and all of a sudden they're expert in whatever it is they decide at that moment. Then you got, again, like you said, you cannot weigh the criticism, an essay written in formal academic sense with something that somebody just barely put an actual sentence together and posted it on Rotten Tomatoes. And they
use Grammarly.
They put those right next to each other and weigh them the same. Like, you can't do that, but that's where we are.
So, Cam, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it that Rotten Tomatoes was the one that was shunting the reviews, or was it the PR firm that they hired for certain reviews, and they were the ones that were shunting off the negative reviews?
And a movie gets unfavorable reviews, I think Rotten Tomatoes goes through a third-party service, and what they do is they wrangle critics who are willing to give a fluff piece. and Rotten Tomatoes is willing to promote those critics over the ones that are, because what happens was there was a story in this Artist Vulture article where the guy was like, hey, what happens if I write a negative review? Because there's repercussions, not in the sense that you're going to like never write a review, but they're just going to pretty much put you in the shadow realm and you'll never see, like, it'll never be shown in the light of day type of deal, you know? Because they said Bunker 15 and Rotten Tomatoes has said, and I quote, one second, sorry about that. Let me go back. Oh, sorry about that. Oh,
it's wild that they, you know, that it's wild that most people, most discerning people, I should say, have always been like, you know, Rotten Tomatoes is kind of like, you know, whatever. Like, I don't really trust Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes sus, you know, and we always posited without necessary proof, but we always posited that, you know, Rotten Tomatoes probably, you know, does exactly the thing that they've been accused of. We've been saying that, you know, in private conversations for how many years now?
And also too, I was double checking on another article where they're interviewing someone and they're basically were like, every view on the site is classified as either rotten or fresh, good or bad, positive or negative. Then Rotten Tomatoes a score for a movie is calculated by just basically dividing the number of positive reviews by total reviews. And that's it. There's absolutely no attempt to gauge enthusiasm of a review. So if a movie is really positive or a little positive, it just counts all the same and it just counts as fresh. So there's really no discernible anything. It's literally just a big dump of everyone can review. So with that being said, you can easily skew it one way or the other.
One way or the other, right?
Because you're mixing in legitimate reviews written by people who can read versus those written by people who probably barely made it out of third grade. I'm just saying, like that, all of that, and then you add that up and divide it by whatever. All of what comes out on the end of that is an equation of shit. That's and
then also you have, like you said, going back to what I was saying earlier about how, you know, they're all weighted the same. And, you know, in this article, someone said, they're like, I'm going to lose some friends here, but Paddington 2 is up there with Citizen Kane. And it says it as good as Raging Bull. But that's a great example of like literally anyone could do a hot take. And then now Paddington 2 has, you know, a fresh meter of like 98% and Citizen Kane is like 94% because I didn't like it was black and white.
Did you find the article you were looking for?
The more input from the different cities is a not so subtle code for a prospective critic. And they asked what would happen if they hated the film. Bunker 15 employee replied that, of course, journalists are free to write whatever they like, but the super nice ones, and there are more critics than they thought were expected in this list that do this, often agreed not to publish bad reviews on their usual websites, but instead quarantine them on a smaller blog that no one ever sees. He said, I think it's a very cool thing to do. If done right, the trick would help ensure that Rotten Tomatoes log positive reviews, but not negative ones. And so this reminds me of a parallel universe of how the music game runs in fake streams. And like, you're not like really listening. And there's this, not to be sidetracked, but there's a thing where the streaming thing where it's like they pay a person who has a gazillion phones all streaming these songs. And it's not real streams. It's just someone's being paid. You know, it's payola.
Yeah. So, right.
And every corner of everything, it's another way of juking stats. That's all it is. Like,
this is what's wrong with the art form itself. We've simplified it into more of a fast food instead of going out, doing the work, being a fan, enthusiast. I say to those people who may feel jaded or feel lost in the system of how movies are being critiqued for a quote unquote trusted source, is to have your own formula of what you deem is good, you know, bring art back.
I was going to say this is happening a lot in like, I think all art forms where the the art is now being informed on how it's being consumed. And so, especially when it comes to social media, there's a lot of, are you an artist or are you a content creator? And what is that difference and all that kind of stuff? And so that leads from regular art, like drawing, painting, and all that kind of stuff, music artists and that kind of stuff. And so there's this interesting situation right now is because things are so digestible and people are consuming it at an alarming rate. Like, are you doing it for the likes and the clicks, or are you doing it because you like doing it and then you put it out for people to like consume? And I think these types of things of gaming the system like actually like hurt that. And I was noticing this, another tangent, but I was talking to younger DJs. I've been DJing for 20 plus years, and these DJs are all in their 20s, like between 24 to 26, 27, maybe been DJing a year, maybe two. The barrier to entry to play music, I'm not even call them DJs, is really easy now. You basically spend about $200, $250, get a controller, connect it to your laptop, boom. Now you can go play at a bar or something like that. But what I noticed was that their motivation for getting into the craft is different, because they at that point, they're not even looking at it as craft. They're kind of just like, I want to play music for my friends. Hey, that's completely cool. Oh, hey, now I'm going to get paid to play music for my friends in a public space. Hey, now I'm a DJ. I got a business. And then talking to some of the younger ones, I was being more curious as opposed to being judgmental. And I was asking them, these are house DJs, more specifically in tech house. And I was like, hey, do you guys go, like, you live in New York City, there's tons of house music parties, there's house dancers, there's all these things. You guys seek them out, listen to other DJs. There's plenty of DJs that play, and they're kind of like, nah, it's like being in my little bubble. But I saw that their motivations were different, where, you know, filmmakers, you know, like, what is it, Stanley Kubrick said, you want to learn how to make a film, pick up a camera and start shooting. And I think that the connection to the craft, because technology and the easy access is so easy, it's starting to wither a little bit, where a lot of a good swath of people that are getting into this are doing it not because they want to get better. They just want to have another objective or whatever. And I think things like this, it's being exposed, Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of the stuff with social media now, folks are like, there's a slight backlash, but then the people that are really dope are still killing it. But it's really interesting to see the younger generation and how they approach all these things, all these artistic things that we hold really high in terms of craft and all that.
Mm-hmm. And we have capitalism that informs all this stuff as well. I mean, capitalism says if it makes money, it's good, it's successful, it is great. But to be honest, and as reality says, that just because a bunch of people pay for something does not make that thing art, or doesn't make it whatever it is. That if a person did that just because they wanted to do it, because it was a passion and they didn't expect any money, then that mode of production doesn't mean it's going to be good either, or it's going to be art. But the difference between the two is that when the person that does it just out of passion with no money or guarantee, whether it's good or bad, will not be acknowledged. But the person that a bunch of idiots paid for it and padded their bank account will be called, oh, this is great. This is art. This is where it's at. This is the next thing. Yeah,
it's weird because, you know, before the gatekeeping came from either a team of elders or technology or whatever, and now those barriers are starting to erode. So now that everybody can do it, everyone's doing it to various levels of degrees of goodness, you know? And so it's annoying, but it's one of those things that, you know, now that we're getting up there in age in terms of us being in these creative spaces, it's interesting to watch.
Yeah, because we saw the birth of the age of information, and now we're living in its apex, and maybe not even in its apex. I can't even imagine where it's going now with AI and all that stuff. But having to live with that world and that age of information now, it's like same thing with racism and all kinds of other things. If everything is racism, then what is racism? If every day is a sunny day, then what is a sunny day? You get what I'm saying?
Right. If everybody's a DJ, then what is a DJ?
If everybody is a filmmaker, then what is a fucking filmmaker? You know? You know?
Yeah. Sorry. I got sidetracked. Never mind. I just posted something and it just threw me off. So,
well, All right, so one of the other things that we have been doing of lately too is because there's been speaking of content, like a slew of content has been coming out. Like there's like almost too much. This is happening in video games, it's happening in TV, and so not all of it's good, and not all of it we all want to watch. So because of that, that's why we start doing one man reviews where people will sit here and they'll watch things on their own, come back to us, and either give it, recommend us that we go watch it, or just be like, I did it because you didn't have to.
Exactly.
So there's certain things that I know like D'Angelo will never watch, even if he was strapped to a chair and tortured. But
I bite your tongue off.
Hey, I don't think this list is like not as bad, man. We didn't really have to take that long, arduous walk.
Yeah, this one was good.
No. This one was actually.
So we'll do round table. We'll go round robin. I'll go first. I'll try to keep it short. So what I watched was The Adventures of Superman on HBO Max. It's one of the newer cartoons. Anything from DC animated that is a serial thing, I judge it from 0 to Young Justice because that is my apex for it. And, on the positive end, characters. It was basically they tried to do more on the anime style. For some parts of it was good, some parts of it was bad, but I think in general that was like, and their demographics were definitely for more of the teens and all that kind of stuff in terms of the whimsicalness. The voice casting was actually really, really good. Our man Boimler from Lower Decks is Clark, and Superman, which was cool. It was, yeah.
Oh, really? They got Jack Quaid as Clark.
Hey, Boimler is not a bad
It actually worked. And the reason why I say it works is because they basically did Clark fresh, like just coming into Metropolis. Him and Lois and Jimmy are all interns. It makes it easier, it makes it fun and whimsical. It's very, everyone in the background is perfectly placed POCs and freaking, Clark saves a baby and it's the couple is a lesbian couple or something like that. So all that stuff's in there. The one thing they did do that I thought that was cool is they strayed away from all the A-list villains. So they use a lot of B and C list, which I thought was kind of interesting. Silver Banshee, Roadhouse, Livewire, like they would scrape them from the bottom and then mixed
deep cuts.
Livewire is about high C. I'll give her that. She
like Silver Banshee and Roadhouse. Those are like,
no.
So they did some really good, interesting things with that. They did a good job of weaving in Lois Lane's dad as general. His partner was his like ride or die was Waller. They're going against the aliens, blah, blah, blah. The missteps, I would say, is that Deathstroke is in there and he's like a kid with, I don't know, it was just stupid. Like it was just, his design didn't make no sense and him being there didn't make no sense. Waller was Waller light. At least she was kind of thicker. So at least, Fat Waller still survives. Yeah, man. Yep. You gotta ride with him.
One though.
It is the best incarnation of Amanda Waller. I will grant you.
Yeah. Like that woman
the best.
is like the best Amanda Waller
So
ever.
I would say in the 8,
Amen.
I think it was 8 to 9 episodes, maybe even 10. What I liked about it was they did a really good job of world building and kind of introducing a Clark and it's been a long time since Superman's had a cartoon in probably like 10, 15 years now, actually. So I think they did a good job.
Well,
Adventures of Superman, I think it was something like that, or JLU.
Yeah, 92. No, JLU. Yeah, that would be Solo would be the last Solo because there's been a lot of.
You're right.
The animated series. Yeah.
So they did. I would say they did a good job of overall building a new type of world within this DC animated. The anime style it takes you get used to if you're a big anime fan. It's like anime light. They did a decent job of like faking it. If you couldn't buy into it, like Josh was saying, there's no way. Like I wouldn't recommend this for anime fans. You could just go watch better anime. But I would say for a DC outing and to do in our post like Young Justice world, it was like a solid 3.5. Like you can have it on in the background or something like that. They did some interesting things, but nothing like in terms of their world building was better than their character development. But I think like in general, I think it was a solid take.
Yeah, I did not enjoy it. not to horn in on the one man interview review, but I couldn't make it past like the third or fourth episode. It was a little too childlike for my sensibilities, but which is good, because at the end of the day, if it's oriented for kids, you want something that represents a time-honored brand like a Superman to pull in little kids. So if that's their entry point, and then, that inspires a kid to go buy a comic book, then I'm all for it. It's just not for me. At it.
Let's kick it to D. What were you watching?
So I watched this past week. I watched Gen V, which for those of you who are listening and don't know, it's the spinoff to The Boys, and it's a spinoff to The Boys, and it's about young. It's like a YA story, which most of you guys know I don't really like young adult stories like that. It has to be exceptional for me to like really get into it. But this I would say, early impressions. There's 4 episodes. It's really good. I like it so far a lot better than I like The Boys, because The Boys is sort of a highfalutin plot. There's not a lot of character development, and you guys know I love the balance between character and world building. And Gen V, it posits itself in a way that allows these young heroes to grow and not be already. So, for example, immediately when we meet Homelander and all those heroes and even The Boys, the impression you get almost instantly is these characters are completely unlikable. They are like people that you would never want to be around. Not just because they have powers that could kill you in the blink of an eye, but like because they're just assholes, right? Even the members of The Boys are not, people that you would like want to be around at all. At least not me. I mean, I'm just saying. But with these, the new characters, the young characters, and they establish a likability about these characters, and they put them in a way. A lot of it is metaphor. So, like, for example, Jazz Sinclair plays Marie Moreau, which I love because it's supposed to be inspired by Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen of Louisiana, and her power is she's. How would you describe this? She can control, manipulate blood. Literally, her power is activated, and she realizes when she had her first period, and her mom comes into the room, and there's blood like just in the air, and then her mom opens the door, freaks out, and she turns the blood into like a chrysalis, and it goes right through her throat.
Damn, what are you watching again?
So, good time. Come on, man! Did I just name all of that, and you can I'm reviewing DB, the spinoff for The Boys.
That's a very The Boys type of thing to have happen.
That's why I said, but they built up to that moment. Like when we first encounter The Boys TV series, it's almost from the very beginning. It's
instantaneous.
Full throttle. Literally, A-Train runs through the woman and disintegrates.
And honestly, that was the whole point of The Boys from the writer's standpoint. He did a stint in DC, did a stint in Marvel, was pissed off, and was like, yo, I need to do something that's the exact opposite of everything I've been working on for the last 10 years. And like from jump, he was like, this is going to be gross, blood, guts, this, that. And it's going to be, I'm like, I don't really care about the character. I have character development, but that's not what we're here for.
That wasn't what he was focused on, but this show is actually character driven. So when we first meet these characters, the main protagonist, she's she's at a vulnerable stage in her life. And this happens, and she literally kills both her parents instantly, not even by trying to, like just freaking out, and her powers going out of control. And then her little sister, sees her sitting with her dead parents and blood everywhere, and she like thinks immediately that her sister's a monster, and like that kills her relationship. So fast forward, the motivation, the stakes for Marie are already there. They just put it up. She's trying to manage her powers so she can become a superhero, so that she could change the perception of her sister and reunite the perception that her sister has that she's a monster, and try to reunite with her. So immediately they give you reasons to care about these kids. And I thought that was a better approach than The Boys. Yes, we're getting still the visceral, incredibly creative, insanely creative ways to destroy a human body. I'm telling you, there's some stuff in this show that's like, I can't believe they did that. Like, it's just ridiculous, and Amazon is just letting them go.
Yep, 100%. And that's how they're differentiating themselves from the MCU and DCU. So that's smart. It's smart in that respect, because like just like how people have embraced that and Invincible, like they're going to kind of keep that like energy the whole time. Like, this is not Superman. This is not Batman. This is not the X-Men. This is if you as a regular person got powers, what would you do? Probably be an asshole.
And it also speaks heavily to the way capitalism is involved in almost every aspect of our lives. And no matter what you do, in the sense that Marie wants to be a hero, all these characters want to be heroes, but they're products first of a brand. And like, The Boys has been really good at showing Vought as that sort of evil empire of a corporate conglomerate, like where everything is about the bottom line, about the dollar. I'm going to wrap this thing up. The other people notable people, I noticed that Schwarzenegger's son is in it. What's his name? Patrick Schwarzenegger. Looks just like him too. Like and you would think that was gonna be like the main guy, like they do with Homelander, but immediately that's not the case, and it's a twist. And like I said, every single character, they give you a reason to care about them. They give you reasons to invest in this show. So like I said, I watched 4 episodes. I recommend it. It's fun, light. But it also isn't just trivializing every aspect of these characters' lives. Like they go through things. It puts you in and makes you feel like these are students at a college, but with superpowers.
Did you want to talk about Starfield as well? Later?
You can do that a little bit later. Yeah,
I'll do that later.
Starfield will be maybe your final word.
Yeah, maybe that's quick enough of a final word. But you guys go. I want to hear what you guys are watching.
What you got?
I have watched some Netflix programming. The most recent one was the latest installment to the Castlevania series called Castlevania Nocturne, and I am starting to think. For me, I am biased because I love a decent. It doesn't have to be overwhelmingly great. Decent vampire flicks. So, or anything vampire related, I'll definitely lower my standards. But with that said, Castlevania is turning into like the Mission Impossible franchise. I like it. I like all of them. I haven't saw one bad one where I'm just like, oh, this sucks. However, I am far removed from the video game to really like give like a apples to apples comparison. But however, they have captivated me as a vampire enthusiast. And this show in particular is, I think it's set about 300-400 years after the Trevor Belmont and Sypha and Alucard.
Is that hold on? Those are the video game protagonists or characters you just described? Because I'm completely all I know is the name.
Quick rundown. In the first 2 series, It dealt with Trevor Belmont, Cypher, and Alucard, son of Dracula. This one is Richter Belmont, which is about, I want to say 5 to 6 generations removed from Trevor, and it's set in France and not in England. It's about 300 years after the original Netflix special. There is one constant in this show, though. Alucard.
What's that?
He's going to be, that's spoiler alert. He's in this one. So, the cool thing, he's half human, half vampire.
Yeah, Dracula's son.
And the original series took place with like Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, whereas this one is based off the Rondo of Blood video game. And there is a character from another Castlevania game who used to be the former owner of the whip. That makes an occurrence in this show. But overall, man, like Castlevania is solid. Like if you're a fan of the video game, if you love the first 2 seasons, definitely check this out. It has the same character formula, a vampire hunter, a wizard, and a supernatural being. But it has some, on Twitter, someone they got black people in Castlevania, and I don't know what they called them, but it sounded so racist, but it was from a black person. I have to find it. But I was like, what? Like, cause it's like the first time you find out they're black elves in Middle Earth. So we have black people in the world of Castlevania, and people lost their shit. And then one of the vampires, I can't think of his name. If you ever watch it and you've watched certain movies with indigenous people, you will recognize this actor. You can recognize his voice. You can even look at the vampire and say, I know who this guy is. I've seen him and stuff, which is cool. So, cause I think he's a Native American actor, but like his take on a vampire kind of reminds me of Vampire Lestat. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
And
that's
rice.
Dope.
Yeah.
All right. Josh, what you got?
Okay. Before I start, as you mentioned, vampire stuff. Cam, have you seen The Last Voyage of the Demeter?
I've been meaning to watch that. That's the little brief chapter in Bram Stoker.
Yeah, I've heard positive things, so I was just wondering if any of you guys saw it. Anyway, for sure. So I have for my one-man review a two-piece, a television show and a film. We'll start with the film. I saw Expendables 4 last week against my will.
By the Oscar winner, Sylvester Stallone, I believe.
Oh yes, several time Oscar winner to you, sir. Yeah, it's for television. It's not that great. It doesn't live up to the first bunch. I mean, the first bunch were just like popcorn films. It wasn't, lots of guns, lots of Dolph Lundgren, lots of Stallone, lots of one-liners, lots of Jason Statham.
He only did
no Wesley this go around, which was weird.
He did 2, right? Okay. And I think probably that's the last one I watched. I remember they were like, "Oh, wait, what were you in for?" He was like, "Tax evasion."
Not to cut you off, but how is Wesley health wise?
Yeah.
I think he's actually been pretty good.
He just old.
Last I heard, he was fine.
Yeah. He opened up a stuntman studio out in Jersey, and then.
Yeah, I think he's doing pretty well from what I understand. I just think he's just kind of been low key about his career after the whole tax issue and all that stuff. But and then also the fallout with what happened at the end of the Blade series and him taking the line to court, rightfully so because of the way that movie was. And but he was in recently in he's in What We Do in the Shadows. The quick cameo where he plays a vampire named Wesley who is a daywalker.
Please go watch that if you guys have not. That's one of those ones.
Oh yes.
Yes.
It's high comedy. Yes.
What We Do in the Shadows. It is The Office meets It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meets Interview with the Vampire.
All right, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, that's rock solid. So yeah, I mean, it's all the things that you expect from an Expendables movie. Megan Fox is in it. So new additions: Megan Fox, some random, well-tanned Hispanic dude who is replacing Antonio Banderas, whose name I forget. Who does the same things that Antonio Banderas does, which is
this the
stupid.
First one that Dolph Lundgren was in, or no? Is this the first Expendables that Dolph Lundgren was in? Or?
No, he's been in several. He's been in like from the beginning.
I have never
he missed
watched
one. I
any of them.
think he might have missed one, but he's been in. I think.
Yeah, he might have missed one, but I think he's there. He's been there from the start. So yeah, Dolph Lundgren is there. Who else is in it? Tony Jaa, which was just yay. He was one of the high points of the movie. They gave him Tony Jaa things to do. But yeah, it just, Stallone, for reasons, they fake his death. I'll just spoil it because it doesn't matter. So they fake his death at the very beginning of the movie. So he's not in most of it. And apparently he's, they faked his death because, covert operation, blah, blah, blah. Better off than thinking I'm dead, yada, yada, yada. Megan Fox is in it playing Mrs. Jason Statham's character. Not really Mrs., but his girlfriend. And so she's like the problematic loudmouth, always complaining, yelling at him, girlfriend.
Megan Fox is the one from Transformers. She was in Transformers. Then she played Jennifer's
Body. She was also April O'Neil in the Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles double.
Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We're getting off track.
Yes, he did. I did not know.
Yeah, we getting off track. Continue, John. I'm sorry.
That's wow though. Wow. Yeah, it just, I mean, so the fact that this is not the fact that this isn't up to the usual high standard that Expendables is known for, it's telling. I was right when I saw the trailer. I was like, yeah, I'll just watch this when it comes out on TV. And a friend of mine basically was like, yo, we're going to see it. And I was like, all right, fine. I guess we're going to see it. And I had zero enthusiasm, and I was justified in my lack of enthusiasm. I think, I don't want to say 4 is one too many, just because 3 should have been one too many, but it worked. But 1 through 3 worked for what they were. 4 does not work for what this is. It falls a little short. The action sequences are great. Tony Jaa does Tony Jaa stuff. So if you want to see that, definitely watch it. That's worth the price. That was the only thing I would say that was worth the price of entry. But everything else was just, like there wasn't enough there. There wasn't enough there in terms of action to make you say, all right, like the other ones, there was enough. There were things that happened that were just like, yeah, I don't care how flimsy the premise is.
Yeah,
I just want to see these guys do awesome
cool
things
from before. It was like, oh, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Right.
It was very tongue-in-cheek, but also at the same time paying homage to really at this point a bygone era of 100%, Hollywood.
100%.
Absolutely. Yep. And I guess the thing was that the premise for this one, Andy Garcia ends up being the old school the old school guest star that pops up in this one. And yeah, it was so flimsy that it wasn't enough to prop up even the best action sequence in this film. So, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's for TV, not for, it's not something I should have paid $20 to go see. And
then you watch one more TV show.
Yes. So I watched The Continental, all 3 episodes. They did it Sherlock BBC Sherlock style. Each episode is 90 minutes. The middle installment was kind of so-so, but the first one and the third one are absolutely on the money.
Real quick, the main character is supposed to be Ian McShane's character, young version.
Winston. Yes, he's a young Winston in late 70s, early 80s New York. They make crappy New York a character. I really felt like I was watching exactly what New York was like when I was a kid.
That's good.
Down to the graffiti on the subway cars, how the subway stations, I remember the subway station looked. So apparently the train station near the Continental is Wall Street. I don't know what line, but it looked like what I remember. My mom worked on Wall Street, so she would get off at Wall Street. And I remember the station looking very much, not identical, but I remember the station looking very much like that when I was a kid. So like I said, they make old school New York like a character in the movie. How we get to Winston taking over the Continental makes sense. I don't think it needed 3 episodes. You could have probably done it in 2, maybe, or 2.5, like a shorter episode
those 3
in
episodes?
between. I don't know.
Okay.
It's just those 3 episodes, 90 minutes a pop, in and out.
Which is the reason why I was gonna watch it, because it's 3 episodes, 90 minutes piece. In and out like that.
Yeah, if you dug BBC Sherlock, it has the same feeling of not too much television. It's just the right amount, so it lets everything breathe. I would say the difference between this and the John Wick film. So obviously the Continental being set in the John Wick universe, and this being a spinoff, it definitely has aspects of the John Wick universe in it in terms of the action sequences, the fight sequences. Yeah, they pretty much, for the most part, nail those. They don't make Winston like the crazy martial arts expert in his 30s or whatever. He's still wearing a cravat. He's still, got the high collared shirt. Pretty much the way that you see Winston as Ian McShane, as a much older man in the 2020s, is exactly what you get as the younger version of Winston. He's the exact same in the late 70s, early 80s. The high table plays a role. The guy before him is Mel Gibson. The guy who runs the Continental. The New York Continental before him is Mel Gibson, and he's a little out of his mind.
You said Mel Gibson out of his mind?
Mel Gibson, sir. Yes. A bearded, cravat-wearing Mel Gibson.
Those two things in the same sentence, and it's supposed to be shocking. But I'm saying Mel Gibson out of his mind, that's like a Tuesday, ain't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is true. So yeah, they nail young Winston. They give him a reason for taking over the Continental. They give him, you get a little bit of his backstory. You get a lot of his backstory, actually. They give you Sharon's backstory, which I thought was really good, and how Winston and Sharon come together, and just they create a whole other cast of characters, the same way that in the John Wick films, there's always like a unique, what's the word I'm looking for? A unique sort of
way of fighting,
bad guy, or a unique bounty hunter. There's an adjudicator. She's very unique. So you kind of get introduced to sort of the origins of everything that you have seen in the first 4 John Wick films up to now. from a 70s perspective. You don't necessarily meet people from the high table beyond an adjudicator and her bodyguard. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It's a little, like I said, a little bit more character driven than I was expecting, which is good. And the action sequences are on the money. And there are black people, which is nice. But yeah, I would say watch it. It's absolutely worth a watch. Whether you've seen and the beauty of it is if you've seen the John Wick films, it or not, it doesn't matter. You can enjoy this if you have no clue who or what John Wick is or what the high table is. Like they do a good enough job of making all those elements stand on their own, and making it a good action TV series with reasons for everyone doing what they're doing.
Yeah, that's dope. Oh, I like that. That's like, yeah, that's why I got it on the list. I got to actually do it. All right. So we're going to wrap up. We'll do some final words. Cam, you want to do your final word first?
Yeah. F my Broncos. That's it. Hey, we on this chat with 1 and 3 teams or 0 and 4 teams. So we on this. We together. Band of brothers. That's all. That's my final word. Just try to get my football take out real quick. Basketball season's back. LA Lakers, let's do it. But that's it. Non-Blerdlines final word. Shout out to the losers.
My eyes water.
I do my final word. I did not realize the Walking Dead universe is the Walking Dead universe. I was on Amazon, and then the scrolly part where they just like they tell you things are coming up, and they showed like 5 Walking Dead shows. I was like, where did all these come from? I didn't know. I mean, I knew Fear the Walking Dead and the regular Walking Dead. Like, what? Why is there 7 shows? I don't understand. And then you have freaking Maggie chilling with the murderer of her baby daddy, and they just hanging out like it just like this. What is going on here?
They hit the road, not just hanging out. They hit the road, came up from the south to New York City.
All the way to New York City together. Where's the zombies? Who's eating people? Like, what is going on? I just can't.
But is that worse than Daryl being in France all of a sudden? Like this?
No, how do you get to Paris? You know what?
No, it's not.
I just don't understand that there's a whole universe of Walking Dead. It don't make no damn sense.
Zombie
How is Dale in Paris in a post-apocalyptic? What? Like, I'm just so confused. I'm so confused.
But you know what? I love it for Norman Reedus because he's just like, yo, you give me the money, I'll be. This will be the Walking Dead. Daryl goes to space. I don't know. Norman Reedus is milking it, and you know what?
Wait, has Walking Dead reached Fast and Furious levels of? Yeah.
Oh, it's going beyond.
It's approaching.
Because at least
it's approaching.
At least Fast and the Furious, you can make sense of that because that's a movie franchise in which again, okay, 2 hours of pure poppycock, but at the same time, it's 2 hours.
It makes perfect sense that Ludacris was stealing CDs in the first one, and now he's a computer hacker.
And now he's flying a car in space.
And the truth is, you probably don't even remember that he was stealing CDs because it was like 80 movies ago.
God.
So
listen,
he's
driving a car in space. That's all. Like, listen,
I just can't. I just don't understand the universes. I want the universes to die. I want things to come out and then go away. That's all I want them to do.
Yeah, the MCU did it, and to be fair, they called them franchises.
Right. All them franchises.
Right? So
now it's just a universe of everything.
It's a universe of everything.
But I think everybody. So I think people, studios are looking at the Marvel universe, air quotes, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and thinking, well, if they can do it, we can do it. And it doesn't like Marvel is set up to be its own self-contained universe. DC is set up to be its own self-contained universe. All the characters they have such a wide cast of characters in both of them that interact with each other and cross paths, and Spider-Man can be on one block and the and past the Fantastic Four building. That's how that works. But to have to build it from this, like, well, if they did it, then we can do it. Like, it's not necessary. It's just it's not. It's but that's how that is how Hollywood works.
Yeah, one thing did it, and then the others just kind of follow suit.
Yeah, they're like, well, if they did it, we can do it.
That makes sense, and that's
hurts my heart.
That's Star Wars or a few others, but other than that, there are no real universe. It used to be. This goes back to what we were saying earlier about capitalism. It used to be, when you had a phrase like universe, it meant something, right? Stephen King built the universe, a literary universe, and that has a certain expectation and it means certain things. You had universes that exist. It's just that in the MCU, to be fair, for phases 1 and 2 and a little bit of 3, we're doing it the right way, right? Whereas you build your individual stories and let them stand on their own, but you sprinkle a little bit of the greater scope in there so that people know we're building for, yes, but you don't ever forget that this is Captain America's story. This is Iron Man's story. This is Spider-Man's story. But now we've come to a point where we can't look at the Marvels. I just looked at that. Whose story is that? Is that Captain Marvel's story? Is it Kamala Khan's story? Is it my girl's story? Monica Rambeau's story?
Tiana Paris.
Like who is it? Yep. Whose story is it? And that's
anyways. You know what really grinds my gears? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that was I was perplexed. I just didn't understand because I stopped Walking Dead a long time ago with good reason, and I was like, I didn't realize that it as a zombie it just won't die. D, you want your final word?
Yeah, it was, I guess, alluded to earlier, but I did want to say something. Josh mentioned that his friends pulled him into the Expendables 4. I want our listeners to know that wasn't one of these 3 friends that did that. So we don't abuse Josh like that. We actually.
Oh God, no. No. Yes, let it be known.
So we gotta make that clear. But
let it be known. Yes.
But no. I was going to mention Starfield as my follow-up final word. I saw that a few listeners were asking if we actually did play the game, and I did. I played it. I played it all the way through. The game is fun for anybody who's a fan of hard science fiction. I mean, it references so many of the great authors. There's a star system called Heinlein. Like, if you don't know what that's referencing, then you're not really a science fiction fan. But the gameplay is fun. It's really buggy, but I've come to expect that from Bethesda. If you play a Bethesda game at this point and don't think that there's going to be a lot of stuff in the game that don't belong there, but it just waste like a coffee cup that you can pick up and loot and never do anything with. It's not worth anything. It don't weigh anything. You can't throw it. You can't do anything with it. It's just there. That's Bethesda. But at the same time, you get to fly your own starship and control the different functions of a starship. You know what I mean? Like your drive and things like that. It applies all these applications of science and astrophysics and allows you to kind of be an engineer or a scientist or an explorer. At the same time, it has a really cool overarching narrative, but you can literally play that game for 200 hours and never touch the main quest. And that's, and you will still be finding new things. And to me, that's what an RPG should be. And that's what an RPG set in space should be like. A lot of people complain that they go to so many planets and there's just like nothing. I'm like, you do understand that there's a lot of star systems in the Milky Way, a lot of planets. And guess what? A lot of them have absolutely nothing but air and a little bit of gravity. So it's very realistic in terms of scientific thought about how these planets in our solar system, not in our solar system, but in our galaxy and other solar systems exist. And, you encounter predators from but they're not sentient. So Starfield doesn't have sentient aliens, just, predators that you encounter or whatever. But overall, the game is fun, solid. I highly recommend if anybody who likes science fiction and RPGs. If you played the Elder Scrolls or you played the Fallout games,
can I interject a little bit? And I'm gonna live up to my title real quick.
Well, I knew you would. That's why
it's not a harsh critique of the game, but I had watched some. Yeah, it's a critique. No. Yeah,
but it is a critique.
There is a lot of critiques, and they are warranted for the game.
So one of the harshest critiques, well, not harshest, but one of the critiques I did here was that the game does not get interesting till the end. Really gets into like the fun part of it. Fair.
I disagree with that. That person must plans in a different kind of way then.
Put in a lot of hours. He's a part of our group chat. It's the same person that asked us, did we play it? And caveat to the audience listeners, that question was asked because we are hardcore PS5 enthusiasts and we are always Xbox bashing. So he just questioned us. He was like, you really bought an Xbox? Like, yes, one of us did.
Yeah, I did. And honestly, I'm counting down the days till I actually sell it back off because the game is fun. But Xbox, wow, I just cannot get into it. It is a terrible console. I'm sorry.
There was a few things that I thought were pretty cool. The exploration detail and the comparison to other games. But there was one thing I saw, the physics of it, where if you on a planet with gravity, the bullets fall, like gravity's there. And when you're in a planet with zero gravity, they float. I thought that was a cool science aspect of it. However, there was one thing I noticed when you go out of a door, there's a loading screen, and this is a small thing, but for a game that took a long time to develop, so much hype, I still seeing, in my opinion, based off what I saw, what I've heard from reviews, CP2077, Cyberpunk 2077 is still superior game, even though with all those bugs. CD Projekt Red created a game it started off terrible, but when I compare it to Starfield looks amazing, but there's certain things you're just like, dang, this game been in development for this long, you still can't have no seamless world, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, those things are really nuanced things. It's not gonna prevent me from playing the game. It's just gonna have me play this game a little bit later than I expected because pre-hype. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. Question: Are there any games that come out that are bug free these days?
There are games that come out that are not as buggy, that interrupt gameplay. That, a few bugs, and then there's ones like this shouldn't have came out. Yeah,
okay.
Like CP 2077 was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Starfield does have those problems. It's not as apparent as from what I'm hearing about Cyberpunk, but they are there. I mean, they're already talking about all the patches and stuff that they have to release. I've seen the bugs and it hasn't. The one that's annoyed me the most, and I've read that I guess this is an Xbox thing again. Why that console sucks. So literally the interrupting gameplay thing. If you come out back, because Xbox has this thing where you can do quick resume, right? Like if you turn off the console and then turn it back on, they'll let you pick up wherever you were, even if you didn't save it. But with Starfield, that doesn't help because literally you'll do the quick resume and about 2 seconds after the loading screen, the whole fucking thing will crash. Literally just it don't even give you a warning. It doesn't even say like, hey, you want to report this to Microsoft? Literally the screen just, and it's back to the home screen. I'm just like, Ain't that a bitch? I was in the middle of a space battle.
Nice.
So now I got to do all that over again. Thank you very much. But I'm just too much of a sucker for the spacefaring stuff. The one thing going to your point, Cam, about they've developing this so long, still walk through the door, the screen goes black and then come back up. Or the one thing that I don't really like is that as far as I know, you can't actually take the ship into the atmosphere onto the planet or the moon or whatever. You'll see it and then it'll give you the option to click it and then you land and it'll cut to the screen and then you'll see. I want it to be like, actually take the ship through the breaking in the atmosphere,
through the atmosphere layers,
through the magnetosphere and all that stuff, and then land. Like, I didn't want it to do it for me. I wanted to do those things. So it's those details that I think takes points away from it. But again, there's so much in the game that even if that's annoying, you'll find some other stuff that is not annoying. But it is I guess it is an acquired taste because I'm hearing a lot of mixed things about it. But I think with time, when they fix the patches and all that stuff,
the game had a high expectation, and we didn't expect these like bare minimum things to be apparent. It should, will this prevent me from playing the game? No, I'll play it eventually. I'll get around to it. So.
Yeah. I wish Bethesda wasn't married to this idea of this being a Microsoft only thing. If it came out on PlayStation 5, the game would be so much I'm just saying it would be so much better if that game was on PlayStation 5. I don't give a crap about not being able to mod and all that stuff. Leave that for the PC. I just need the game to function and be a good gaming experience. And that's what the PS5 has and Xbox does.
And with that, we're going to leave you guys. Thanks for rocking. Oh, wait, did you do yours? Senior.
Wait, I didn't get my final
senior
word.
moment. Senior moment. Josh, go ahead.
So 2 things. One, shout out to New York Liberty in the WNBA finals.
I've actually been watching. I've gone to Liberty game. It was actually quite entertaining. I've been to
the Liberty game.
Did you know?
Great. It's in the Garden. Why would nobody go to the Liberty?
No, it's at
Barclays. When I watched the game.
You played in the WNBA? Wow.
2 years. You didn't see the one that had the mustache the whole time?
That dog, that should have been your final word. The other thing is brief final word version of One Man Review. I also watched Twisted Metal. Do not do that.
Joint with Captain America, right? Anthony Mackie. I watched
Anthony Mackie. I made it maybe 3 episodes, and I was like, I can't.
You don't watch no Mackie led show. That's all.
I watched the first episode. I
wanted to give it a fair shot. I wanted to be like Cam and be a well-informed hater. I knew going in, I was like, this is probably a bad idea. And I watched it and I was like, well, why is it a bad idea? And I went ahead and watched it. Like I said, I wanted to be like Cam. I wanted to be a well-informed hater that I am now. And I must tell you that it started out cool. Yeah. It was okay. The first episode
I was like, interesting world.
Will grab you.
Interesting situation. I was like, I don't know how they're going to do this. It all kind of made a little bit of sense. Yes. Chick from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yes. She's in it. Nev Campbell, main antagonist. I was like, okay, this good. They got pieces. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, they got Nev Campbell.
Yep. Yeah, they had pieces of the puzzle.
The main villain.
If you played the game, everything was cool right up until the fat clown face guy showed up. I was with it. I was with everything that was happening until that dude showed up. And yeah, they tried to make him as insane as he is in the game, and it does not translate well. I mean, it's a comedy, so it ends up being comedic, but it's a little too goofy for my personal
what's weird
taste.
is that Will Arnett did the voice in the wrestler Samoa Joe, the body.
Yes, the actual yes.
So,
and it definitely sounds like Will Arnett out of his mind.
I don't fool Anthony Mackie on too many things. No, this is the one thing that
you found
really
one thing.
Did it.
Go.
He pretty much did career suicide, like Luke Cage doing the dad when he played Tupac, and he says, "I'm Tupac Shakur." I was like, okay, I am never watching anything with this dude. And when he had a show, Captain America, what is it, the Black Captain America, Goofy and the Winter Soldier, whatever that was called, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Really just told me I want nothing to do with this guy. I used to like him in certain things, early career, Girl 6 and other earlier works, but lately, man, he's just not believable. I can't deal with him. And the fact that you watched a video, like, it's rare. Video games translate the screen.
I agree. But the first episode does sell it. I will give him that.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It's interesting.
The first episode
it's
does
entertaining.
sell
It's
it.
interesting. They introduced some interesting characters that are not Anthony Mackie. Neve Campbell as a villain is actually kind of cool. But
Yep.
I like that too because she's the whole screen thing with her being
for years. But the clown part, that's when you can tell. Like right when that happens, you're just like,
it falls apart. It works for the video game, but it falls apart when you get to that. And I'm a Will Arnett fan. Will Arnett can do no wrong in my mind. But except for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I like you know what? I liked Altered Carbon. Anthony Mackie was fine in that. He was fine.
Yeah,
I watched one episode.
Oh no, you know what? I never watched that season.
Now, see, I include him and Joel Kinnaman in this thing.
Hold on.
Like the white Anthony Mackie.
I'm Joel some bail because he's a jiu-jitsu brother. So I'm gonna give him some bail. He can actually whoop ass. But I've seen him at work. It's not memorable. But to me, I like season 1 of Altered Carbon. I thought it was cool. Season 2, I lost interest.
Season 1 was great.
I was like, I don't need to watch this. Yeah.
The first episode, though, because I keep saying I need to swing back around because they presented some interesting things in towards the end of the first season.
Yeah, it's over. They just did the second season.
Maybe I'll hate watch.
It only slightly pays off.
Season in the anime, which is good actually.
Oh yeah, anime.
Yeah, it's an anime. Yeah, it was pretty good. He said the white Joel Kinnaman.
That is harsh.
He the white Joel Kinnaman.
Black Anthony Mackie
is the Black Anthony.
Oh.
He's the white Anthony Mackie, and Joel Kinnaman is the
Joel Kinnaman is the white Anthony Mackie.
They're the same person. One is white and one is black.
I got you.
Check that out.
I mean, I will say this. The stuff that I've seen Joel Kinnaman in, anybody could have played that role.
I want to say that about Anthony,
which is unfortunate because I feel like he has potential as an actor, but it just something about his portrayals just doesn't jump out. I don't know. It's just not the right role. I don't know what it is, but I think it's there. I think he has whatever it is, but I don't think he's had the role that's taking advantage of whatever he's got.
They
just
don't. They keep trying to make fetch happen. They keep trying to make fetch happen. It don't work.
They keep trying to make. Well, I mean, look at Suicide. Look at the 2 Suicide Squad movies. He was good, but he wasn't great. He wasn't memorable. Yeah, and going back to the first Suicide Squad movie, which is a bad film by all accounts. everybody else in that movie was memorable, and I cannot picture anybody else playing the roles that were played in those with those characters. But anybody could have been
in
Joel
all
Kinnaman.
those roles. Even Will Smith, like people made a big deal about him being what was he dead?
Deadshot, yep.
Deadshot. He was dead something. But he even Will Smith, I looked at him, I'm like, they all just look like they just accepted a check, which is what it was. So, anybody could have been it.
Well, supposedly that movie had like massive rewrites midway through, and the movie that we got is not the movie that they trailed.
It makes it's even weirder because if that's what we got, then what was there was probably worse. Maybe. But I've heard different. Supposedly, the original cut, the David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad is supposedly in the works. So let's stop that right now. Cam, you got to edit that part off the show because we don't want to encourage no more cuts from that abomination of a franchise.
And with that, we might have to stop it before we go on for another hour.
That's my fault. I'll take responsibility. Sorry.
There you go. Black Joel Kinnaman and the white Anthony Mackie.
Oh, it hurts.
Oh, man.
I just saw the trailer for Silent Night where Joel Kinnaman has no words. It's a John Woo flick. That's an action joint in Christmas.
Wow.
And he like lost his vocals, something. So he doesn't have to act.
Yeah. And notice the whole trailer. What did they sell you on? The greatest action director of all time, John Woo. I mean, like the last
White Anthony Mackie. I would actually make this episode called The White Anthony Mackie, but we'll keep it as Street Wars.
Anthony Mackie has enough going on without taking pictures with kids.
The big thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you didn't want to take a picture with kids, bro, he said it politely.
Listen, I'm in agreement. If he has every right to not take a picture with whoever he decides he doesn't want to, like whatever. Man.
I'll probably sympathize.
And what's messed up is, and then we really gotta go. What's messed up is grandma came over, asked if the kid could take a picture with him. He said no. Auntie got wrinkled, brought the kid over, and was like, and then filmed it and was like, would you please take a picture with the kid? And he said, absolutely not. That's his right. It doesn't, like, you don't have perpetual access to actors just because they're actors, just because you know who they are, just because they're celebrities.
Pretty much.
The man has the right to not take a picture. It's not his job.
He didn't have to do that. And as he said, her coming over that time didn't change his mind. But I was going to say really quick, the man lost me in Captain America Winter Soldier when every line out of his mouth was reaffirming that he was worse than Captain, that he's weaker than Captain America, they're weaker than Steve Rogers. Oh, I do everything he does, just slower. You're black, man. You don't need to be on camera saying that.
There's company here. There's company here. You're not supposed to talk about that.
You don't say that in front of company.
When they shoot at you, they shoot at me. Cap, how do we know who the bad guys are?
Really?
Captain America has to say, if they're shooting at you, they're probably the bad guy. I thought he was a soldier, brother. How you not know?
And with that,
he
should have been watching his dialogue. As a black man, you gotta be careful.
And so we shall end on the Black Joel Kinnaman. The Black Joel Kinnaman saga will continue somehow into the future. I don't want to slander him too much. He has a bar near here that I go to, so where I live. So,
hey, well, you paying.
I'm a patron.
You're a patron. You're patronizing this bar. You can say whatever the hell you want.
This is Blerdlines. The patron saint Black Joel Kinnaman, and we out.